But anyway, I remember getting home and I had this real bad open sore that apparently is caused by the rash, and I thought, well, at least I can pack that and draw it out. You know, if there's poisons in there, I'll get it drawn out. And Dad says I took lots of herbs, and that I did. But I don't even remember that. The only thing I remember was the telephone ringing and crawling over to the telephone and picking it up. And I don't know whether it was you or Lisa. Or, I guess it was Lisa.
I think it was Lisa. Yeah.
And I remember she said that I was incoherent and saying weird words that didn't even make sense. But all I knew is something told me that I had to get to the phone, and that it was the most difficult thing I think I ever did was getting over to that phone. But I did, and then I think you and Lisa carried the ball from there on, and she called you, and I don't know what you said, but
well, she had looked up the medicine on the net, and she said all the reactions that could happen, and she was really worried about you, and so I went and looked it up and called the Asking nurse. The Asking nurse said that they should get you in right now because it's really serious. It sounded like what you had, and so I called Dean to get the doctor's number.
Mm-hmm.
He gave me the doctor's number, and I called the doctor. He said what was going on, and shouldn't we be doing something?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's the last I did.
Mm-hmm. Then he sent the nurse over.
Well, he tried to call, I guess.
And couldn't get me. So probably I was to the point where I couldn't get to it at that point.
Where's Karen?
You told him that I was incoherent?
Here's Karen.
I told you that you sounded my sister said you sounded incoherent, and that there could be really bad side effects with this drug. And he said, what? With that? With Landane? I said, he said, I've never heard of that. I said, well, I have. I just looked it up on the internet.
I have first, so get back.
Okay, go play your pulling game somewhere else, guys.
I have this first.
Go.
Yeah, but it's Cameron.
So they said other people had side effects.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, well, anyway, so then I got, the nurse came and helped get me dressed, and they took...
I want it, please. I want it.
And they took me over, she took me over to the doctor's office, and then they called to admit me to the hospital, and they could see I was pretty bad, I guess, and there wasn't a bed available, so I was waiting around there in the doctor's office, and I had this seizure. And stiffened, I just shot out like a bullet, Dad said, and I shot into the wall and shattered my shoulder and had a seizure, and poor little Erica was there with Dean and Betty and thought I died. And anyway, then they called the paramedics, and the paramedics came and took me away, and I was in a coma for, 3 days? Or
no, you weren't in a coma. I think they had to give you the medicine. They knocked you out so that you wouldn't have seizures.
Oh.
Or you wouldn't hurt yourself
with
your seizures, I think. I don't think you were actually in a coma.
Oh, okay. Dad told me.
Look like Cameron.
Well, they didn't tell us that, though. They didn't tell us that they'd knock you out with those drugs. So you didn't know why you weren't waking up. They didn't tell us that.
I know you didn't.
Well, that's just as well they kept me down so I didn't have more seizures. And then for about 3 days, and then they started, I came out of it. So anyway, I came out of it, and they operated on my shoulder and put in a titanium shoulder. Really, the doctors were very nice. And Dr. Last, I remember him crying over my bed. I felt kind of sorry for the poor man because, I mean, he really wasn't, I guess it was just out of him not knowing things. Had this nice little family. I mean, he tried to do his best. We all have things that we make mistakes in or don't know about. So anyway, anyway, I'm just glad that I'm here and alive, that I'm better. And I really appreciate everything everybody did for me.
Okay.
And the power of the priesthood, and faith and prayers of the family. Dad, I know that's why I'm here today.
Okay. Have you ever saved anyone else's life?
No, I don't. Well, I just took care of all you children when you had real serious. You want to come here? You want to come here and cuddle? Oh, Grandma would cuddle you.
Want Grandma cuddle you?
He wants Mommy to cuddle him.
Mommy cuddle you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that's good. Good boy. Likes cuddlies. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I just say that so many of you children got high fevers, and I just remember laying by you all night, especially when you had that 105 with the scarlet fever, just staying awake all night, putting cold cloths on your foreheads. That's all I remember. You know, I'm sure you've done the same thing as a mother. That's just a part of being a mother. But as far as saving anybody's life, I never did. One time something kept saying that I was going to see this accident days before, and then over there on Fort Union Boulevard, here this motorcyclist came. This motorcyclist came. Here we were, just all in a big long line of cars, and here came this motorcyclist up this little side of us. It wasn't really even a lane, and he just come up. He just got impatient and was going to turn left, and just as he got to a certain point, this station wagon cut across, and he couldn't see it for the lane of cars, and he just started. He laid down to try to stop from going into it, but he died the next day. So, but I didn't say. I run up to try to help, but I got my fingers in his mouth to take his tongue out and put his head back, and then somebody else came that knew CPR, and I just went on home. So actually, I didn't save his life, but I tried.
Okay. Have you ever been hospitalized?
Yeah, after that thing, and then when I had my goiter removed too. Had my goiter removed. And of course, to have the 6 children. But
Yeah, I remember the goiter thing. I didn't like that scar. It gave me nightmares.
oh, really? What they did to me, I didn't know that.
Nobody told me why you had this big scar on your neck.
Oh, really?
Cutting my mom's head off.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Oh, I should have explained.
If you could change something about yourself, what would it be?
I guess so. I wouldn't be quite so absent-minded. I wouldn't change probably not having my vision problem. I've got quite a severe vision problem, but it does help me. It makes me klutzy. So if it could be a little less bad, I would mind, you know.
What is it, Alex?
Oh, it's just some letters. Is it in your way?
Oh, there's
Just
a thing.
wanted to know what it is.
Oh,
Can you put it back out too?
It's just some letters, old letters. Just not any, just some things to be read, I guess. Anyway, I guess that part that I would change if I could be a little less absent-minded and a little less klutzy.
Cameron.
Oh. But all in all, I'm very happy with what the Lord gave me, and I really wouldn't change places with anybody.
Okay, have you ever had an experience that you would consider to be supernatural?
Oh. Yeah. guess when I was called on to be, before I was called on to be Relief Society president, when Dad was in the bishopric, but everybody thought he was going to be the new bishop, but then they called this other young guy to be the bishop instead, and you know, I wondered about, he was so young, if he was qualified, you know, to be a bishop, Brian DeHaan. And then I remember as they announced his name, it was just like this warm fire just came all around me, just this warm thing, clear from, it seemed like it came up from the bottom of my feet and clear up to the tip of my head, just this, I was like enveloped in this warm, nice warm feeling that he was the one that was to be, which I know is the Holy Ghost telling me that he was the one that was, the Lord did call to be the bishop at that time. And then he called me to be his Relief Society president. And then the counselor that I called, Eleanor Unsworth, I had that same impression about her, that she was to be my counselor. I had that same feeling, so that was nice. And then just different grandchildren. I remember I had this. I saw Michael, Clark and Laurie's Michael, before he was born. I just had I would see these quick little flips. I just saw him. Only where I saw him, he was about a 3 or 4 year old boy, and he was going down this river, or in this water towards it was like a tunnel, you know, and I thought, oh well, that's just a dream. But then they moved by some water, a big lake, and it kind of worried me, so I told them about it. And maybe it was just a dream, maybe it wasn't supernatural or anything. But, well, I know in a way that it really was true, because I saw what he looked like before he was born, and that's what he did look like, you know, after he was born. So
they needed that warning.
Yeah. Anyway, I just told them to be careful of the water. Yeah. Anyway, then they moved from there. But, and then, I remember the one time that Alex had his DPT shot, the pertussis, something just really about drove me out the wall that he shouldn't have it. It might give him neurological problems or something. I don't know what it was. Anyway, but he's all right. He's turned out just good.
Okay. Did you ever know something was going to happen before it actually did? I don't know, just that one thing, I guess, about that accident. I don't know. Not really too many. I don't know. I haven't seen too many things ahead of time. What do you usually dream about?
I don't dream that much. I dreamt when I was a little girl. I used to dream about this river bridge. We lived in an island in the Snake River. Actually, Hibbard it has bridges on 3 different sides of it, and they call it an island. It used to be Island Ward in the middle of the Snake River. Only it's big area. But we used to go over this bridge, and it was kind of rickety, a rickety bridge, and I always used to dream that I was falling off that bridge. But I never did. And then before Lisa, well, when she was a little girl, just about a year old, we had these stairs in Granger, and they didn't have a railing going down our basement. It was just like you'd walk over the edge of them. It wasn't finished off for quite a while. And I used to dream that she was falling off those stairs, but she never did, so that was a blessing. So everything isn't for sure, you know. All my dreams, or some of them are just dreams, I guess.
Okay. Describe your religious beliefs.
Well, I know that the church is true, and that Joseph Smith was a prophet of God, and that we have a prophet today. And I know that God lives, and that Jesus is our Savior. And if we'll live worthy, and if we've done anything wrong, that He was the one that suffered for our sins, and that that we can be forgiven. I know that, and I'm so grateful for the gospel. It's very important to me in my life, and for the parents I had that taught me, and it's a big part of my life is the way I feel about that.
Okay, settle down, guys.
Now they're playing with the timer. Who do you think's going to be the winner?
Okay, what was the most stressful experience you've ever been through?
Probably the one with the Linda. Oh, I don't know. Other than that, I know we've had some with the when we had the Studebaker and we're going out to camp, and we got up this steep incline, and we had the trailer behind, and we got almost to the top, and the trailer couldn't be pulled, and it was pulling the Studebaker back, and our whole family was going down the hill in the Studebaker backwards, and just as we got to the very edge of this cliff or this ravine, the car of the trailer stopped. It stopped right at the edge.
Where was this?
Well, I guess it was Strawberry, where Dad and I used to go in the trailer and take the kids fishing. I don't guess you weren't born yet then, because we lived in Murray.
Well, I got Cannon County busy.
that was kind of stressful.
Okay.
Oh, and then one other time when we were on our mission, and this guy was a drug dealer, and we were teaching his wife the gospel, and we were teaching him too, but he was just kind of halfway in it, and she'd called that they were having some real bad marital problems, and he was like, she was afraid of him and wanted to know if we'd come over and talk to him, and we did, and she was afraid he was going to do something to her or something, and finally, I don't know why, but we asked him to come and stay at our place. You know, rather than hurt her, we just couldn't stand to think he might do something to her. But here we were in our bedroom with the door locked, and we could smell this weird smell. I know he must have been smoking marijuana. He was on the bed in our apartment, you know. We were scared. Our mission president would have died if he knew we did that. He was the one that got killed later by some other drug dealers. Anyway, that was something we shouldn't have done that, but we did it. But that was a stressful night.
Okay, what's the scariest thing that has ever happened to you, personally?
Oh, that was probably the scariest. Maybe more than stressful. It was scary. Oh, I really don't know. Probably when Dad had his heart surgery, and you know, I just wondered if he was going to make it through and everything. That was really scary and stressful, you know, too. And when he came home after and had the embolism in his lung and that, it was really stressful. Getting through that and wondering how we were ever going to make it financially with a son on a mission and everything. When he had his heart attack, that I would lose him and have a little family, that was pretty stressful and scary. But we made it through. In a way, though, I always had this assurance that he wasn't going to die. Somehow I just knew that he was going to be all right. And that was good. Even though it was hard, it was good.
What kind of musical instrument have you learned to play?
A little bit on the piano. Just a little. Dean's taught me.
Why?
Because I'm recording this.
And you don't want to hear that?
Yeah, hard to hear with that noise.
Yeah? That's why you told me not to do it?
Yeah.
I already had enough of that time.
Good.
Can you
Okay.
do that tomorrow?
Would you consider yourself creative?
Oh, I don't know. Just, I like to cook. I might not be a perfect cook or anything, but of course, the things I like to cook aren't, and I can probably make things from scratch. put things together out of very, very simple things and make them stretch and use up every scrap. but as far, and I have quilted, but I'm, as far as sewing, and I guess if the world went around on stitches, Reva Bishop told me that, you know, how she said, if the world went around on stitches, I'd never go anywhere, and that's about the way I am. I'm really not talented in sewing or anything like that, but I've done it. I've mended a lot of coveralls and overalls with the, you know, with the sewing machine. That sewing machine got its wear and tear, in spite of the fact I'm not that creative. But anyway, I like to write poetry. I've written some poetry and written a few little essays, you know, and that way. But not overly creative, no. Not like Dad. Dad's the creative one in our family.